Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.
Shalom, 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 Yasharal and Yahudah, grafted in Gentiles into the body of Hamashiach. Listen, we're listening to Hezekiah. The song is entitled Yerushalayim, right? I do not own the rights to this music. Listen, we are straightened. Yeah, we as in me, right? We as in the Tsor of truth, right? We are straightened to ensure that the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach goes forth. That's priority number one, right? Yeah, we can't do anything until we fulfill what Yahuah in Yahusha has instructed us to do. By his Ruach HaKodesh, to declare the witness to the brethren, right? The witness of Yahushua Hamashiach's blood, his water, the water baptism, and the Ruach HaKodesh, to declare his witness, to preach the kingdom, right? And the kingdom is Yahushua Hamashiach, is the restorer of the kingdom of the Yahuah, Elohiym, on the earth. And in order to be a part of his kingdom, you must receive his witness. Yeah, because that's what we preach. Yeah, we preach. And we preach it with the objective of winning others to this witness in order that they may preach, right, this witness, that they may win others, thereby producing fruit for Yahusha's kingdom on the earth. Yeah, Yahuah has established this method, this way that was hid for the foundations of the earth, right? This plant of righteousness from which he has selected righteous seeds, people to put his Ruach HaKodesh in, to sanctify among the heathen in order to establish his kingdom. Yahuah, I give you praise right now in the name of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach for this witness. Yah, greater love have no man that has been displayed by Yahushua Ha'Mashiach than that which he did when he offered up his body as an atonement for our sins, to restore the nation of Yasharal and to provide Yeshua to those of the other nation whom he has chosen. Yahuah, I give you praise for this witness. Yahuah, I pray right now in the name of Yahusha, that by your Ruach HaKodesh, that you would deliver a basora, a Torah of righteousness to those who have an ear to hear. Yahuah, I pray in the name of Yahushua Hamashiach, in so doing, use me, the vessel, use me, my lips, use my tongue, take the reign and reign, Yahuah. Yahuah, that none would be turned out of the way, that none would come up lame, that none would be caused to stumble, but that the basora, the witness of Yahushua Hamashiach, will go forth, because it's about the witness. Yeah, it's about the witness. It's about the witness. You have called your people to wake up to the witness. You've called them from the awakening to the quickening. And Yahuah, I give you praise for the quickening. For you have he quickened who were dead in your trespasses and sin. Apart from the quickening, we remain dead. Apart from the witness, we remain dead in our trespasses and sin. Yahuah, I'm praying right now in the name of Yahushua Mashiach, that by the Ruach HaKodesh you would deliver your basora of truth, Yahuah, that they would receive your word, your witness. In the name of Yahushua Mashiach, Yahuah, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuah, my strength and my redeemer. Listen. This is about the witness of Yahushua Hamashiach. I preach the witness of Yahushua Hamashiach. And Yahuah told me to tell my people that they need the Ruach HaKodesh, right? And he has told me to go through Acts in order for you to understand what that looks like. Because you ain't seen it like this. Oh yeah. I mean, you may receive the word of Yahuah, right? But the actual physical manifestation of this you haven't seen. Yeah. Because this was not in the Christian church. This ain't in the Christian church to this day, right? Because it's not established on the truth and the Torah and the Tsor of truth, right? It was a spawn of Constantine. It was an evolution. They've taken the Basora, right, elements of the Basora, right, and shifted in their pagan heathenistic doctrine, right, to establish, right, this way of thinking that has nothing to do with what you see in Acts. Yeah. And not only them, right? The Muslims did it. Oh yeah, they took elements from the Basora and the Torah of truth and established their own religion. Oh yeah, they all have stolen from. Listen, those that say they are Yahudiym and are not, but are the synagogue of Hasatan, has took the 5 books of Moses. They took the what is it? The Pentateuch. They took it, right, and built the Talmud, right. They've all stolen elements of this Basor in its completeness, right? And formulated these pagan doctrines, these doctrines of devils, and they have caused mankind to be drawn to them. Yeah, you get what Christianity has covered the 4 corners of the earth. Hezekiah. The song is titled Yerushalayim. I don't own the rights to this music, right? They have literally covered the 4 corners of the earth with this pagan rendition of the Tsor of truth, right? See, we are Yahudiym. We are Messianics, right? We believe in the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, right? We believe in the total role. Right. See, we will, by his Ruach HaKodesh, those who have received it, right? Those that are of the everlasting plant of righteousness, right? To them shall be given the 7-fold doctrine of the whole creation. Why? Because it's in the volume of the book, right? By the Ruach HaKodesh. It could not be discerned because we did not have the Ruach HaKodesh. But he has selected, he has chosen from the everlasting plan of righteousness. Yahuah has chosen to sanctify his name amongst the people whom he has chosen, right? He has put his name in them. He has sanctified them amongst the heathen, amongst those who pursue Judaism, who pursue Islam and the Muslim faith, those who pursue Christianity, right? He sanctified his name by the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. And that's what we preach. That's what we declare. That which we teach, right? For these signs shall follow them. Yeah, these signs shall follow them. They believe these signs. These signs, Yahushua says, shall follow them that believe. Signs. Going to follow them to believe. Right? What we see in Acts. What we see with the Apostle Paul and Peter and Yehukanan. What we see with Philip. What we seen with all of the others, even those amongst the Gentile nations. These signs shall follow them who've received the witness of the Ruach HaKodesh and Yahusha, his water and his blood. Listen, of which Yahuah testified to it. There are 3 that witness to Yahusha in the Shamayim, right? 3, Abba Father, the Word, and the Ruach HaKodesh. They witness to Yahusha on the Eretz and the witness to the Eretz. They're all one. You got to receive the witness. You got to receive Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. Listen, we going in. It's the Acts of the Apostle, right? And we left off Paul departing from Ephesus, not having went into it, but having called the brethren, the assembly, out to meet him, to establish with them an understanding of the responsibility that is in their hands, right? Revealing and calling to remembrance within them that which he has done, how he has performed, how he has conducted himself, how he has presented the Tsor of truth, and then has never caused anyone to be turned out of the way. How he has lived upright before them, how he's worked with his own hands, right? How he supplied the needs of those who came along with him, right? He did it. He did it. Paul did it, right? Right? How they weren't a burden to no one. He did it. He worked with his own hands, right? Right? He provided. Listen. A workman is worthy of his hire, right? But Shaul did it. It was established that he was a tent maker. He knew how to make money. Yeah, he made tents with Aquila and Priscilla for the space of the time that he was there with them, ministering and preaching and teaching on the Shabbat. Paul was letting them know, listen, there's no sacrifice too great. If you have to be prepared to support those who labor with you. And that's what he did. By example, he supported those who labored with him. Now, he used to take up offerings to take to Jerusalem, right? Because it's established that Paul, when he went to Jerusalem, he took offerings that the church of Jerusalem was in need of, because they were impoverished. Yeah. They were suffering. That's why they had all things in common, because they needed to have all things in common. Listen, let's go on. Acts 21:1, right? So wait a minute, let me hit something else too, right? These people loved Shaul. These Gentiles. And these Hebrews that were persuaded, right? And these Gentiles, of which most of them were Gentiles, right? They loved Paul. They loved Paul. They loved him. Now you had them Yahudiym that hated Paul, right? It was in constant pursuit of him. When him going to Jerusalem, he didn't even know what to expect, right? Right? But listen, these people loved Yahuah. These people loved Yahusha. And they loved Paul, who spent time in the Tsor of truth, teaching and showing and revealing the Tsor and the Torah, the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach, and what that looks like and what that means. He taught them Torah. Listen, he had to teach them Torah. He had to teach them. 2.5, 3 years, he had to teach Torah, right? He may not have said thou shalt not, but he did teach them what it meant to walk in the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach, because he reiterates it in his letters. They loved Paul, right? Verse 20 and 36, and when they had thus spoken, he kneeled down and prayed with them all the disciples at Ephesus, all those who came out from the church, the leaders, knelt down and prayed with them. And they all wept sore at the thought of never seeing Shaul again. After having possibly not ever see Shaul again, because Shaul brought them the Tsor of truth. He brought them life. He brought them the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. That witness changed their lives. That witness brought them into the kingdom of Yahuah and Yahusha, right? That witness quickened them. They fell on Paul's neck and kissed him, weeping sore, sorrowing most of all for the words which he spake, that they should see his face no more. Right? Because they knew what that meant. They knew what that meant. Right? They knew that could have possibly meant that he would be killed for this witness. They recognized the possibility existed that they would never see him again because he would be martyred. And they accompanied him into the ship, and they followed him into the ship. 21st chapter, right? And it came to pass that after we were gotten from them, we left them, and had launched, ship moved off. We came with straight course unto Kos, right? And they following unto Rhodes, and from thence unto Patara. Huh? So they were straightened. They had purpose. He needed to get to Jerusalem before Pentecost, right? He did not know what was going to befall him, but he was moving with a purpose. He was moving with a purpose. Right? Right? And finding a ship sailing over to Phoenicia, we went abroad, went on land, and set forth. And when we had discovered Cyprus, we left it. We left it on the left hand and sailed unto Syria. So they may have still been on the boat, right? Because finding a ship sailing over to Phoenicia, right? We went abroad and set forth. So they went abroad. Let's look at Greek. What does the Greek word mean? How was
Strong's G 1910 epibino.
Okay, epibino. It means that they just embarked, which means that they embarked, right? To go abroad, a ship, to set foot in or enter. So they went in, they set foot, and they entered, right? And now when they had discovered Cyprus, they left it, right, on the left hand and sailed into Syria. So Cyprus was on the right, on the left, and they sailed to Syria, right? And landed at Tyre. So they ended up landing or stopping in Tyre, right? For the ship was to unload her burden. So the ship that they rowed over to Tyre on had a bunch of stuff that had to be offloaded, right? Right? Now, and finding disciples, right? Because, the ship had to be offloaded. That was going to probably take a little while, right? Finding the disciples, we tarried there 7 days. So we found disciples, those who had received the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach, right? Those who had received the Ruach HaKodesh, right? Right? We found them and we tarried with them, right? Who said to Paul through the Ruach HaKadosh that he should not go to Jerusalem, right? So, Paul was determined, straightened, right, to go to Jerusalem, right? He was determined to go to Jerusalem, right? He felt the need to report unto the disciples, the apostles, what was being done, right? But here we have one of the disciples who through the Ruach HaKodesh, right, received a word instructing him that he should not go up to Jerusalem. Now, Ruach HaKodesh instructed him to do this. Now, it says the Spirit capitalized, right? So, you know, they play games. They go from the Spirit to the Ruach HaKodesh, to the Ruach HaKodesh to the Spirit of truth. You know, I mean, this is still all the Ruach HaKodesh, right? So, through the Ruach HaKodesh, he should not go up to Jerusalem. So, Paul received a word from a disciple, right? A follower of his, right? Right? No doubt someone who has received the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach, and the Ruach HaKodesh, and no doubt it was someone that probably Paul was connected to, because he found the disciples that were in Syria, because that's where they were. They were landed in Tyre, for the ship was to be unloaded, right? So Syria was the country and Tyre was the city. I mean, that's what I'm understanding, right? For there the ship was to unload her burden, right? Now, you know, Paul had been here, right? And finding disciples, we tarried there 7 days, right? Tarried there 7 days. Who said to Shaul through the Ruach HaKodesh that he should not go up to Jerusalem. Paul was straight to go to Jerusalem. Now, there are times when being straightened, right, and not listening to the Ruach HaKodesh, right, leads to your demise. Because if the Ruach HaKodesh is telling you not to go a place, and you go to that place, the Ruach HaKodesh is warning you not to go for a reason. But you see, Paul had already resolved that, you know, he doesn't care if he loses his life for this ministry, for this witness of Yahushua Mashiach. He was established in the fact that it didn't bother him, right? He was resolved. He was resolute, right? And it's interesting, right, that he told Paul this, that he should not go up to Jerusalem, right? And when we had accomplished those days, we departed and went our way. Now the Ruach HaKodesh told Paul not to go to Jerusalem. But Paul went anyway. The scriptures didn't say that Paul had acknowledged what this man said. Scripture does not explain any other details other than he was warned by the Ruach HaKodesh, instructed not to go to Jerusalem. And listen, you know what? This shows how even we who have the Ruach HaKodesh, who move mightily in the Ruach HaKodesh, right? If we're not careful, because of us being straightened to do the work, we fail to hear what Yahusha has to say. Right now, Yahusha may not have intended Paul to go to Jerusalem. He may not have even intended Paul at this point to begin this chain of events that preceded him. Because, Paul, he ended up in jail, right? And Yahushua may not have been ready for that, because there may have been still areas that Yahuah needed needed Shaul to go. But Shaul was intent on going to Jerusalem, right? Right? So he says, and when they had accomplished those days, we departed and went our way, and they all brought us on our way with wives and children, because they all, the disciples, wives and children, and everybody bought Paul, right? And the Yahoo and the Gentiles that were with Paul that accompanied him, right? His disciples, right? They brought us on our way with wives and children till we were out of the city. So they went with him, right? Till he was out of the city, right? And we kneeled down on the shore and prayed, right? Kneeled down on the shore and prayed. It's the pattern. It's the pattern Paul has established with those that are amongst the assemblies who are his disciples to pray. Right? He did it the last place he was at, right? So they prayed for Paul, right? And it says, right, in verse 7, verse 6, and when we had taken our leave one of another, we took ship, and they returned home again. They went back home 1 week, straightened, by what the Ruach said, to go to Jerusalem, right? Straight to go to Jerusalem, right? And when we had finished our course from Tyre, right, we came to Ptolemais, and then saluted the brethren and abode with them one day. So they went there, spent a day with the brethren, right? No doubt ministering the Tsor, because that's what Paul did. It was more than just a social call. I mean, it was a family gathering in the sense that it was a meeting to talk, to find out what was going on, how things were progressing, how was the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach continuing to be received, what you're running into. Listen, we going to pray, we going to seek Yahuah, I'm going to give you some word, and then, I'm going to be gone the next day because I'm straightened about the business, right? Right? Yeah. Now it says, and the next day we went where, it says, and the next day we that were of Paul's company, right, departed. So everybody was with Paul's company departed, and came unto Caesarea, and we entered into the house of Philip, and Philip the evangelist, right, which was one of the 7, and abode with him. So this is the Philip, right, that was established, the Hebrew that was established, right? When Peter, when they were confronted with the offerings to the widows, right? Offerings to the widows. And Peter said, listen, it's not meet for us to wait on tables. You need to find 7 men from among you full of the Ruach HaKodesh, right? You can put in charge over these matters. Well, Philip was one of those. But Philip was also an evangelist, right? Philip was the one who the Ruach led to the Ethiopian eunuch, who got up on the carriage of the Ethiopian eunuch and expounded onto him from the book of Isaiah. And the eunuch, after having received the witness of Philip, he was like, look, there's some water over here. What prevents me from being baptized? Philip said nothing. So he went down and baptized him in the name of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach, and the eunuch was received the Ruach HaKodesh, right? And Philip came up out of the water and was teleported. Ethiopian eunuch didn't see him no more. Philip was in a whole different place, because that's what the Ruach HaKodesh looks like. So they ended up at Philip's house, right? Philip the evangelist, right? In Caesarea, right? Let me see. No, Philip wasn't a Jew. He was a Gentile. I mean, at least that's, wait a minute, I mean, an evangelist, one of the 7 deacons of the church. Philip's name means lover of horses, right? His stepbrother. Okay. We're gonna have to look into that deeper. He was selected, right, to initially amongst the 7 who would tend to the needs of the widows, the Grecians' widows, right? And the Grecians were Hebrew converts, right? They were Hebrews. They were Hebrews, but they were Grecians, right? And Philip probably was Hebrew, Grecian. Anyway, anywho, right? They ended up at Philip's house in Caesarea, right? Right? Philip the evangelist. Now, Philip, the same man, had 4 daughters, virgins, which did prophesy. Ruach HaKodesh. The witness was in Yahusha's house, in Philip's house. The witness of Yahusha was in Philip's house, right? Philip's daughters were quickened. They had the Ruach HaKodesh. They were made alive. They moved in the Ruach HaKodesh, right? Which did prophesy. Yeah. Women do prophesy in the Ruach HaKodesh. Yes, a woman can prophesy in the Ruach HaKodesh. In the order of the Ruach HaKodesh. Right. Okay, that's going. And as we tarried there many days, we stayed there for a while, right? There came down from Judea a certain prophet named Agabus, right? It's a prophet. Agabus, right? Now, Shaul had received a word from the Ruach HaKodesh, right? He refused that word, right? The word was not to go to Jerusalem. Paul refused that word. Right? Now he's in Caesarea. Been there for quite a while. And no doubt doing what he does in the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Doing what he does. Right? Ministering, teaching, fellowshipping, ministering, praying, laying hands, signs following, doing what he does in the Ruach HaKodesh, right? All of a sudden, right, as he tarried there many days, they came down from Judea. A certain prophet, right? A certain prophet, that Greek word for prophet. We know what a prophet is, but that's for just for a little clarification. The Greek word is
Strong's G 4396. Prophetes.
Right? Interpreter of the oracles or the hidden things, right? One who moves in the Ruach HaKodesh, and hence his organ or spokesman, right? Solely declares to men what he has received by inspiration of the Ruach HaKodesh, especially concerning future events, and in particular such as relates to the cause of the kingdom of Elohiym, right? Prophet. Right? And his prophet's name was Agabus, right? His name is
Strong's G13.
Agabus. His name means locust. Right? Right. And locusts were usually used of Yahuah to bring judgment. Right? They were used to show Yahuah's judgment. Right? Agabus. Right? So Agabus, right? The prophet, when he was come unto us, right? He took Paul's girdle and bound his hands and feet, and said, thus saith the Ruach HaKodesh, so shall the Jews at Jerusalem bind the hands that owneth this girdle, and shall deliver into the hands of the Gentiles. Right? He prophesied this. Right? Now, Paul received the word from the Ruach HaKodesh not to go to Jerusalem. He decided not to take heed to that. He decided not to obey it. That word. Right? That word. That word. Finding disciples, verse 4, we tarried 7 days, who said to Paul through the Ruach HaKodesh that he should not go up to Jerusalem. He said, he spoke to Paul by the Ruach HaKodesh that he shouldn't go up to Jerusalem. The Ruach HaKodesh and his man gave him a word and told him that he shouldn't go to Jerusalem. Right? And now he's in Caesarea. And Agabus, right? Because Paul didn't take heed to the word, right? But persisted on going, right? still informed Paul, because you're going to Jerusalem, this is what's going to happen to you. Right? Yahuah will not infringe on your will. The Ruach HaKodesh could lead you to do a thing, but if you don't do it, Yahuah ain't going to infringe on your will. He's not going to stop you. He's going to let you go through. And your motives can be 100% Yahuah. Adonai Yahusha. Right? I got to do this. This is what I got to do. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. This is what I got to do. I got to do this. I got to do this. And Ruach HaKodesh saying, no, don't do that. Send a word. Because, he ain't getting through to you. Oh, yeah, he ain't getting through to you. So he has to send a word to someone else. Don't go to Jerusalem, Paul. The Ruach HaKodesh said, don't go to Jerusalem. Paul ignored. Now, if we looked at the text, the way the text is presented, it was as if Paul ignored what the Ruach HaKodesh had to say. Right? Because Paul was like, I got to go to Jerusalem. Got to go to Jerusalem. And he's at Caesarea, and Yahuah sends a man named Agabus. His name means locust. Right? Locusts devour. Right? He sends a man named Agabus, who takes Paul and binds his hands and binds his feet and says to Shaul, this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to be delivered to the Gentiles. The people that you are called to preach this Tsor to, they're going to deliver you to. Right? Right? And Paul. And when we heard these things, both we and they of that place besought him not to go up to Jerusalem. Paul, don't go to Jerusalem. You heard the word that was prophesied. Don't go to Jerusalem. Now, Yahuah had already told Paul not to go to Jerusalem. Right? In the Ruach HaKodesh by the other disciples. Agabus, right, came down from Judea. Prophet. Right? And when he was come to Paul, took him, girded him, took his girdle, bound his hands and his feet, and said, thus saith the Ruach HaKodesh, so shall the Jews at Jerusalem bind the man that owneth this girdle, and shall deliver him into the hands of the Gentiles. Now, whether Paul felt like this was something that was destined to happen, right, it's not clear to us. Right? The disciples, on the other hand, felt like, look, man, why would you want to go somewhere to be locked up? Why would you want to go to Jerusalem and be locked up? Paul answered, what mean ye to weep and to break my heart? Break your heart. You breaking our heart. Right? Now listen. Now understand what Paul says here. For I am ready not only to be bound, not to be bound only, but also to die at Jerusalem for the name of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. You don't have to. We understand, Shaul, that Yahushua said there were some things that you have to suffer because, you told us that, right? We also know that Yahushua has preserved your life on several occasions as you have responded in obedience to the actions that were spoken to you, right? It appears as if you have a righteous death wish. Listen, to live is Hamashiach, and to die is gain. Listen. You being locked up is not going to benefit the mission as much as it could have if you remained free. Because the witnesses that you received spoke to you about not going to Jerusalem. And then because you just was continuously on your way, because see, Agabus, right? The judgment, the locust, Agabus, right? He has declared what Yahuah is going to allow to happen, right? Because of Paul's determination to do exactly what he said. I am prepared to be bound in Jerusalem and to die. Yahushua. Right? He's prepared to die for Yahushua. But he didn't have to. And when he would not be persuaded, he ain't going to be persuaded. The Ruach HaKodesh told him. He ain't listen to the Ruach HaKodesh. Don't go to Jerusalem. Now Agabus came to him and told him, listen, you're going to be bound by hand and foot. He didn't listen. Told the people, why you hurting his heart? Speaks to the mind of Shaul. Shaul said, you hurt my heart. Why you hurting my heart? I'm prepared to go to Jerusalem and die. Be bound and die. Why you hurting my heart? Listen, this is what the witness looks like. The love of people. Paul determined to be bound for the witness or to die for the witness. Right? And the people loving Paul still believe that there's time. There's still places. There's still things that we can do. Right? And when he would not be persuaded, we see saying, the will of Yahuah be done. We stopped saying, Paul, don't go. When we knew he wasn't going to be persuaded, Yahuah, let your will be done. Yahusha, let your will be done. Right? Now, after those days, we took up our carriage and went up to Jerusalem. Right? There went with us also certain of the disciples of Caesarea, and brought with them one Mnason of Cyprus, an old disciple with whom we should lodge. Cut it out. Go lay down. Cut off. Cut it out. Right? So, they found this place and they lodged. They stayed there. And when we were come to Jerusalem, the brethren received us gladly. The apostles, they received us. They were excited to see us. Gladly. Right? And the day following, Paul went in with us unto James, and all the elders were present. And when we had saluted them, he declared particularly what things Yahuah had wrought among the Gentiles in his ministry. Right? So, Paul was determined to declare to the church at Jerusalem what Yahuah had been doing through him. Right? And the days following, Paul went in with us unto James. Right? And all the elders were present. And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things Yahuah had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry. Right? It says now, and when they heard, they glorified Yahuah, Adonai, and said unto him, thou seest the brothers, how many thousands of Yahudiym there are which believe, and they are all zealous of the Torah. Hold on just a second. I apologize. All right, so cut it out. So what we have is, right? So they glorified Yahuah, right? And said unto him, thou seest the brothers, right? How many thousands of Yahudiym there are which believe in Hamashiach, receive the witness, and they are all zealous to continue to keep the Torah. Right? Because the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach does not exclude Torah. The witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach does not exclude Torah. Right? Now again, he's there on the day of Pentecost. He's going up for the Feast of Pentecost. Right? And you know, 3,000 souls was added on the day of Pentecost when the Ruach was received, the witness of Yahusha. Right? And the witness has gone out. The witness of Yahusha has gone out. And this is, right? This is what we see now, the Yahudiym, who've received the witness. That's why Yahushua told me. He said, listen. Because this is what it looks like. Yahushua told me, he said, listen. Tell my people they need to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. They need to receive and understand what the witness looks like. Right? They need to see what the Ruach HaKodesh and the witness look like. See, the Yahudiym that were converted, right, to believe the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach didn't stop keeping Torah. They did not stop keeping the Shabbat. They did not stop keeping the Shavuos, the feast days. They didn't stop keeping the commandments of Yahushua and Yahuah. They didn't stop. They continued. See, and that's what we as Yahudiym need to understand. We who are waking up, you could still receive the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach and now truly be zealous to keep the Tsor because it's in you. It's in you. He says, and when they heard, they glorified Adonai and said unto him, thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Yahudims there are which believe, and they are all zealous of the Torah? Listen. Paul told them and showed them, declared unto them what occurred with him, and they're revealing and showing them what's happening in amongst his brethren. Right? See, brothers, how many thousands of Yahudiym? Listen. Yasharal and Yahudah especially, hear me. The witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach is a must. In order to keep the Torah, zealously for the Torah, you have to receive the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach, because that's the only way you're going to be able to keep the Torah zealously. Excuse me. That's the only way you're going to be able to keep the Torah zealously. With discipline, it's in the Ruach HaKodesh, because Yahushua lives in you, and you have the capacity to keep it now. He says, and they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Yahudiym which are among the Gentiles to forsake Mosheh. Right? Saying that they ought not be to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs. Right? Now hear what he said? Right? And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Yahudiym which are among the Gentiles. That's not what Paul did. Paul didn't teach the Yahudiym not to circumcise their children. Paul went and circumcised Timothy's. Was it Timothy's or Titus? He circumcised them. So that was a lie. Oh, listen, it was a lie. He says, and they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Mosheh, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk in the customs. Paul never did that. Paul told the Gentiles they never had a law or a covenant. There's no need for them to be circumcised, because the establishment of the covenant was through Abraham, Abrahamic covenant, which still is fulfilled in Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. Just that circumcision alone ain't going to establish them in the faith. He said, they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Yahudiym which are among the Gentiles. Paul never taught the Yahudiym not to be circumcised. Paul was in the synagogue on the Shabbat. He was keeping Shabbat. Paul never didn't teach. He never taught people not to obey Mosheh. And he never taught them not to keep the commandments. He taught the Gentiles the commandments. So I'm telling you, man, listen. Paul done walked up into a hornet's nest, right? Right now, you got Yahudiym that have been misinformed. You have Yahudiym that have been misinformed. That's why I told Paul not to go to Jerusalem. And they are informed of thee that thou teachest all the Jews. Paul went into the synagogue and reasoned with the Yahudiym. But Paul preached the Basora, the witness to them, but he preached the witness to the Gentiles. The same witness, right? But there was observances, circumcision, right? That they weren't compelled to keep. The Gentiles. They couldn't eat meat offered to idols. They could not have anything to do with idols or idol worship, right? And they couldn't drink blood. Right. What is it, therefore? The multitude must need to come together, for they will hear that thou art come. James. Now you remember James stood up and spoke in reference to them not having to need to be circumcised. The Gentiles now, the Gentiles. But it's something altogether for them to receive a word that he's teaching the Jews, the Yahudiym, not to be circumcised. Something altogether different. Right? But listen, I've circumcised my son. My father circumcised me. I don't know that he had any idea what he was doing, right? But it was an established covenant between me and my father's seed, Abraham's covenant, right? I have received the Ruach HaKodesh from my son. I have lived with the Ruach HaKodesh for 20-something years before my son was born, right? And I just believed it was a thing to do. Even though they tried to tell me I was a Gentile. Shoot. Gentiles. Excuse me. The Gentiles that were proselyte. Believed in circumcision. They had to be circumcised, right? Gentiles. Excuse me again. Had to be circumcised. I believed, right, that it was a thing that I needed to do. Even though I know I wasn't Yahudim. I knew I had to Ruach HaKodesh because I wanted what was in Acts. I got my son circumcised. Right? I obeyed the covenant. The Abrahamic covenant. Right? But what established me in that covenant was not the circumcision, but it's the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. But as the seed of Abraham, because I have a covenant with Yahuah, I'm still obliged to, I still have a responsibility to keep circumcision. I have to keep circumcision. Because that's a covenant that was fulfilled in Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. But because we're Hebrews, we are of the plant of righteousness. From which Yahusha came. Aram, of the seed. Right? Enoch, the 93rd chapter, the 8th verse. After in the 3rd week, during its completion, a man of the plant of righteousness, a man, Aram, of the plan of righteousness, the seed, the plant, is Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. Yahushua Ha'Mashiach is the plant of righteousness. Abraham is the seed. He is the man from which the seed, Yitzhak and Yaakov and the 12 tribes, Yehuda, Dawid, Shalomo, the seed. Plan of righteousness shall be selected. The man, Abraham, from which the plan of righteousness, his seed, his seed, right? Even more specifically, Judah, because the same man that Abraham spoke a word to was the same man, Dawid, that Yahuah spoke a word to. He's in that Yahusha, right? The scepter shall never depart from Yehuda, right? The rulership, right? Because Yahusha is that rulership. And after him, the plan of righteousness shall come forever. After him, meaning after his seed, shall the fruit of righteousness come, right? It's never instructed the Yahudiym not to circumcise their kids. He says, for what is this therefore? The multitude must need to come together, for they will hear that thou art come. They want to know. Right? Do therefore this that we say to thee, right? We have 4 men which have a vow on you. Wow. You need to do something, Paul. Because you have 4 men that have made a vow concerning you. Right? Now, let's look at that word vow. Right? The Greek word.
Strong's G 2171. Yuhe.
Yuhe. A prayer to Elohiym, a vow, right? The etymology of that word in the Greek is
Strong's G 2172.
Yuhamai.
Yuhamai.
To pray to Elohiym, right? To wish to pray or to pray for, right? Right? So they had established a vow, right? A vow, right? Let me see what he says. On them. 4 men. He said, then take and purify thyself with them. Right? And be at charge with them. Right? That they may shave their heads. And all they may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing. But thou thyself also walketh orderly and keepeth the Torah. So listen, y'all, look, this is what you need to do. You have 4 men that have prayed. You need to show solidarity, show oneness in this keeping of the Torah, right? And honor their vow and demonstrate to everybody, right, that you're in agreement with this. This is what you believe, right? He says, and they says, as touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing. You know Gentiles don't observe such things, right? Right? Because they don't have the covenant. Right? They're grafted in. They don't have the covenant. We have the covenant. Yahuah has established the covenant with us. We have to circumcise our kids because it's what we understand as what Yahuah has required of us. It was a seal. It was a mark. It was a seal that established us in Yahuah. It made us as identifiable to the other nations, right? And it was Yahuwah's way of saying to us, this is what separates you from the heathen. This right here, circumcision. It's a seal. Now the seal has been replaced in Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, or not even replaced. It's been fulfilled, renewed, established in Yahusha Ha'Mashiach because of the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the seal, which is Yahuah and Yahusha in you, which gives you the capacity to live right, to keep the Torah, to walk in the commandments, as the leaders that greeted Paul suggested that, look, these people are devout to the Ruach HaKodesh, Yahusha's witness. But they got a problem with you teaching people to, right? But Paul never taught the brethren that they weren't to keep Torah. But, he needed to show solidarity, right? He needed to show, right? Right? So it says, for as touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols, and from blood, and from things strangled, and fornication, right? I'm sorry, I forgot fornication. Yeah, fornication. Yeah, you can't fornicate, right? Which is again which is Torah, right? He says, then Paul took the men, and the next day purified himself with them, right? Excuse me. Paul took the men, and the next day purified himself with them, entered into the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification, until that an offering should be offered for every one of them. Excuse me. Paul kept Torah. An offer of purification. Paul kept Torah. Paul kept Torah. And what happens next, right? Offered for every one of them, right? And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Jews which were of Asia, those ones who were starting the ruckus, right? When they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him. The Yahudiym in Asia, when they seen him, there he is, just Paul, let's go get him. Let's get these people cranked up. Let's get him, right? They was the ones who was jealous. Those were the ones who were filled with envy, right? This is not James and the brethren, right? These are Yahudiym from Asia, right? Right? When they saw him in the temples, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him, crying out, men of Yasharal here. This is a man that teaches all men everywhere against the people and the Torah and this place, and further brought Greeks also into the temple and polluted the holy city. These lying brews. Lying brews. Brews lied. Lied. Blatantly lied. This man said, this man teaches all men everywhere against the people and the law. Paul went in the synagogues and reasoned amongst the Yahudiym, right? Reasoned. Showed the correlation between Yahusha and the Hamashiach that was spoken of in the original covenant. Showing them in Torah how Yahusha was spoken of in Mosheh. Right? Right? How the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach was for them, but also for the other nations who Yahuah has chosen from among to be a bearer of the witness. Hated Paul. He said, the people and the law. Paul never preached against the Torah. And this place, and further brought Greeks also into the temple. See, now, the church of Jerusalem had already established that if the Ruach that fell on them, they can be a part of the temple. They can come into the temple of Yahuah, right? They can keep the Shabbat. Right? Right. He said, further brought Greeks into the temple and have polluted the holy place. For they had seen before with him in the city of Trammuthis and Ephesus, right? Whom they supposed that Paul had brought into the temple. See. And all the city was moved, and the people ran together, and they took Paul and drew him out of the temple, and forthwith the doors were shut. And now here's Paul, already demonstrating that he's in compliance by what he has said, and what he was willing to do in support of a vow to show his solidarity to the nation and to Yahuah's laws, statutes, and commandments. Right? The vow. 7 days. Purification. Waiting for the sacrifice. Him and 4 other men. And then you have some Asian, some Jews from Asia coming into Jerusalem and getting the people worked up. They drag Paul out. And as they went about to kill him, Paul was like, look, okay, Yahushua said, okay, you ready to die for me? Okay, here you go. Ready to be bound? Here you go. This didn't have to happen, but here you go. And as they went to kill him, tidings came to the chief captains of the bands that all Jerusalem was in an uproar. Right? and immediately took soldiers and centurions and ran down unto them. And when they saw the chief captains and the soldiers, they left beating Paul. They left beating of Paul. Now you know Paul gonna have a problem with this. So here we have them dragging Paul out to kill him. The chief captain, who's in charge of civility, security, right? Heard that a bunch of Jews was causing an uproar, right? And all Jerusalem was in an uproar, who immediately took soldiers. All right, let's go. We got to go. And centurions, right? To officers of the Roman army, right? And ran down unto them. And when they saw the chief captain and the soldiers, they left beating of Paul. He was beating Paul. Beating Paul. Paul just completed a vow. They went to beating Paul, right? Right? Then the chief captain came near and took him and commanded him to be bound. With 2 chains, and demanded who he was and what he had done. And some cried one thing and some another among the multitudes. And when he had not known the certainty for the tumult, he commanded him to be carried into the castle. They beat Paul. They had to carry him into the castle. And when he came upon the stairs, so it was, that when he was born or brought forth of the soldiers for the violence of the people. Right? For the multitude of the people followed after, crying, away with him. Right? Paul didn't have to go through this. Paul could have received the witness of the Ruach HaKodesh by the disciple. Told him not to go to Jerusalem. Paul could have listened to Agabus, who was speaking about judgment that should befall Paul had he went to Jerusalem. The people, the disciples, tried to persuade Paul, don't go to Jerusalem. Paul was determined to go to Jerusalem. He wanted to have an audience before the elders of Jerusalem and tell them what happened. And the audience that was at Jerusalem wanted to reveal to Paul what happened. How Yahushua, the Yahudiym had received the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach, but were disciplined also now, zealous in keeping the Torah. Paul had to show his solidarity, participate in a vow, and did it, because Paul believed in keeping the Torah. Nothing about Paul was ever not keeping the Torah. And what Paul enforced was what the church at Yerushalayim, the leaders, had enforced. He had a letter. The letter went out. He had the letter. He had the letter. They knew they wanted to kill him. Now, and as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek? Yeah, Paul was a Hebrew. They spoke Greek. Paul was a Hebrew. My color. Greeks were a different shade. I was rather surprised at Paul's ability to speak Greek. Because, you know, when Hebrews spoke Hebrew. Right? He says, art thou not that Egyptian? Because, you know, Egyptians was our color. Before the invasions of the Turks and before the invasion of the other nations that flowed and eventually took dominion and intermingled and married and even have taken the people that were established in those territories and moved them into places like ghettos and established their identity as the people of that nation. Yeah. Paul was an Egyptian. Paul was my color, ruddy. Not red, ruddy. Ruddy, as in horse color. Brown, deep red brown dog. A horse, ruddy, right? Not red, not redheaded and freckles. No, that's not ruddy. He says, art thou the Egyptian which before these days madeth an uproar and leddest out into the wilderness 4,000 men and were murdered? You see that brother that caused the stir? Egyptian. Why would he assume that he was an Egyptian? Paul said, I am a man, a Yahudiym of Tarsus, of the city of Cilicia, a citizen of no means city. I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people. Right? And when he had given him license, Paul stood on the stairs and beckoned with his hands outside unto the people. Right? And when there was no great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew tongue. Okay, so we're going to stop there. Paul was straightened. To deliver the witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. Right? Paul was determined to make it to Pentecost in Jerusalem. in spite of being warned by the Ruach HaKodesh not to go. In spite of being told what was going to happen if he did, went anyway. Paul was prepared to die, even if he didn't have to. He was prepared to be bound, even if he didn't have to, for the witness. Will a Yahuah allow you to have what you say? Will Yahuah allow you to have whatsoever you say? When you believe what you say shall come to pass, you will have whatsoever you say. Let's do this. 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 Mark 11 and 24. All right. Actually started 22. Yahusha answered and said unto him, have faith in Yahuah. For verily I say unto you, whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but believe the things which he say shall come to pass, he shall have what he say. Right now. Now Yahusha was talking about a confession of belief in reference to a desire for a thing. Right? He says, for verily I say unto you, whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, what you're saying is to have something removed or to have something come. Right? Doesn't matter. It has to do with saying. Right? Right? And shall not believe, but shall not doubt in his heart. Right? Paul didn't doubt in his heart at all that he was going to be bound. He didn't doubt in his heart that he was going to die. He was prepared. Right? And shall believe those things which he says shall come to pass. Paul believed those things which he said. And they came to pass. Right? He shall have whatsoever he say. He got exactly what he said. How the Ruach warned Paul, told him don't go to Jerusalem. But Paul had said in his heart, I'm prepared to go to Jerusalem and die. Paul told the people in Ephesus he would not see him no more. The people mourned with him as they prayed with him because they knew they may not see him. They're going to see him again. Because they knew Paul had already resolved that, he was prepared to die. Because they witnessed how he had to run from the Jews. And going to Jew headquarters. You going to Yahudiym headquarters? Paul had already said he should have whatsoever he said. He said, therefore I say unto you, What things soever you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them, you shall have them. It's a Torah. That's in the Torah. Right? Spoken by a man who had, or a woman who has the Ruach HaKodesh, the witness of Yahusha. Ain't everybody getting that. Yahuah will honor whatever it is that you say, even though he may not want it to happen then. Paul wanted it, he got what he wanted. He got exactly what he said. Man of Yahuah, woman of Yahuah. The Ruach HaKodesh is given to lead and to guide into all truth. The witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach must be preached. You must obey and listen to the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Your motives may be as pure as anyone's anywhere who loves Yahuah. But you must obey the Ruach HaKodesh. Must obey him. I pray, Yahuah, in the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, that everyone under the sound of my voice who have received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach will look at what Paul has experienced, even though his desire was righteous and that he wanted to do the will and the work of Yahuah. He did not heed what the Ruach said. Yahuah, help us to be mindful of what the Ruach HaKodesh says and how the Ruach HaKodesh leads, and to obey what he says and how he leads. Yahuah, the Ruach HaKodesh will lead us and guide us into all truth. The Ruach HaKodesh is that comforter. Yahuah, the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, is of imperative importance. The Ruach HaKodesh, the witness of Yahusha, must be preached. Yahuah, help me never not to listen. Help me, Yahuah, always to listen to the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuah, I don't ever want to be turned out of the way because of my failure to hear the Ruach HaKodesh. I don't want to be prematurely put in a place where I should not be because I did not hear the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen, Yahuah, I pray that you would cause your people to hear what the Ruach HaKodesh is saying this day. And with that, Yahuah, I give you praise that the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuah, my strength and my redeemer. Listen, man of Yah, woman of Yah, that's all we have for today. We can go on. We are going to go on tomorrow into this 22nd chapter, right? But the lesson to be learned is listen, Paul was straightened. And everywhere Paul went, he made an effort to encourage, exhort those that were in the way that he had come into contact with before, or who he was establishing that were new. But in the same breath, he had to understand that when the Ruach HaKodesh leads you, you need to follow. Ruach HaKodesh told him, and his disciples, don't go to Jerusalem. Paul's course could have been totally different. But Paul made the choice because he had already resolved. He already believed what he said. And when the disciples, when they were at Caesarea, realized that, said, your will be done. In the Shamayim, as it is in the Rhodes. As it is in the Shamayim, as it is in the Rhodes. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, that's all we have today. Pray that Yahuwah's words has strengthened you and quickened you and made you alive. But this witness has got to go forth, and I'm going to continue to preach it and teach it. The witness of Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness. Woman of Yahuah, beautifully, wonderfully made today. Yahuwah's favored you. Go forth in the strength and the favor of Yahuah. And listen, and obey the Ruach. Then I say, shalom, shalom, shalom.
Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.